I would now like to introduce our keynote speaker, Chairperson Sharon Hurd of the Department of Agriculture. Sharon Hurd joined the Hawaii State Department of Agriculture in 2007 with the Market Development Branch, where she established regular communication with the commodity groups and agricultural associations that has been key to her understanding of Hawaii agriculture. Prior to her appointment to Chairperson Board of Agriculture, Sharon served as the Business Development Program Manager and focused on seeking and administering federal grants that will provide resources to farmers, ranchers, producers, organizations that represent Hawaii agriculture. Sharon is a graduate of the University of Hawaii with a BA in zoology and has 27 years of sales and marketing experience in the airline industry with Delta Airlines and All Nippon Airways. Please help me welcoming Chairperson Hurd.
Good morning, everyone. DOT, water people, moderator Ty, consultants, and thank you for having me here. It's a great opportunity to talk about how the Department of Agriculture protects our water system. Every agriculture conference I've been to has at least one session on water. Water is fast becoming a global resource that is becoming more important to manage as it's diminishing in quantity and quality. The last conference I went to was the National Association of State Departments of Agriculture. Spent a lot of time talking about the Great Salt Lake in Utah. The Great Salt Lake, as great as it is becoming more and more polluted. It's becoming less in quantity, and it's an issue. In India, globally, in India, they're irrigating their fields with water that's coming out with salt water. It's not working for them. We had a year not too long ago that was deemed, the UN, United Nations deemed it to be the year of the pulse. Pulse is beans and grains because they don't need much water to be grown. The focus was on what foods can you grow in the desert because there's so little water in the world. California, severe droughts. Well, because of climate change, it's feast and famine with water, right? But in California, they're trying to wonder what they're going to do with their almond crop because almonds, they produce so many almonds and that crop is so water hungry. So the global availability of water is becoming an issue. And the fact that you are in this room today means that you're part of the solution. You're the minds that are greater than most on this issue. And so I bring you this issue hoping that you're thinking the whole time, hey, how can I work for the Department of Agriculture and help them solve these problems? We got openings, okay? Okay, the question that people are asking in my circle is, stormwater is a resource that is wasted, right? It rains episodically and then it runs off into places, it damages the earth. And so how can we capture, recycle, and reuse stormwater? And in discussing this problem, the issue that I've learned is called non-point source pollution, because stormwater comes from the ground, surface ground, right? And on the surface area, you can't control what goes on there. Back when I was growing up, it was acid rain. Those of you that are as old as I am would remember that global pollution was creating acid rain where all the chemicals and organic material would fall onto the ground and kill things because it was so damaging. So that's pretty much the parameters of what I'm going to be talking about today is the HDOA and non-point source pollution. Okay. Oops, wrong. Okay. Climate change has led to increase in episodic frequency and magnitude of extreme rainfall. Land management by the ranchers has been a real resource. It's protecting the land. The water will come, but the grasslands will hold the water back. The land that is not managed by the ranchers, that is forested or just plain old not fallow, the water just runs through, picks up everything along the way and dumps it wherever it's going to dump it. in Hawaii, it's the ocean, right? And it's very damaging to our corals and natural resources in the water. Last year, there was legislation to assign liability to landowners with 10,000 or more acres, and they were going to be liable for the runoff. The bill died because the testimony that was given was basically, how do you know that that runoff that's on the ocean, damaging, the dirt that's laying on the coral, is from that landowner? What if it's from the forest? What if it's from the mountain? So the bill died, but that's how important the issue of storm runoff is. They want to make the landowners liable, the agriculturals liable to manage their lands. Hey, you keep the water is up on the mountain, or keep it on your property. We don't want to see it in the ocean. Farmers and ranchers receive federal funding from agencies to help them manage their lands. They know that if you manage your lands, if you make the contour of the land a certain way, the water will run in a fashion that you can capture it and then reuse it. So the federal agencies have their piece in this. But then again, there's that non-point source pollution problem, right? If you open your spigot and the Department of Health, who we rely on every day to keep us safe and public health and safety, they will test the water regularly. Recently, they found PFAS. They found gasoline. But that's point source. You open your spigot, they test it, there's something in there. They know, right? But non-point source pollution, and I know I'm speaking to the choir here, but non-point source pollution, you can't control it. Acid rain I gave you earlier. Most recently, there's something on the mainland US, hasn't come here, maybe they just found it recently, like yesterday, but there's something called the highly pathogenic avian influenza. It's very dangerous, it lives in birds. The non-point source pollution of that, they think, is migratory birds, because they can't figure it out. It comes and it goes, it comes and it goes. So maybe it's the migratory birds that also come and go, come and go. And so as these migratory birds are flying over the US, they deposit maybe H5N1 virus. And that's what goes into the water, the cattle drink it, and then it comes out in the milk. So far, that is a suspect non-point source pollution for highly pathogenic avian influenza. We have a recurring problem on Molokai with bovine tuberculosis. The ranchers on Molokai decimated their herds. They said, okay, we're going to fix this problem. Years later, it came back. What are we going to do now? And now it's in the axis deer and maybe even in the feral swine. So even if the farmers decimated their herd, the bovine TB lives in the wild. So we got to find a virus for this non-point source pollution. We think it's in the water. We only have one migratory bird here, and it's the koloa. But maybe there's a pocket of it somewhere in the mountains that every once in a while that it will recur. So I guess my point is there's problems to solve that maybe water is the non-point source pollution is the cause of. We all know about the gasoline and the PFAS situation. Again, non-point source pollution. Maybe we do know where it is. We got to find it and stop it, or at least try to get rid of it. Okay. Now, specifically to the Department of Agriculture, how do we protect our water system? One thing that we do is we have a very strict process if someone wants to introduce a new active ingredient or a new pesticide, a new chemical that's in a treatment that's proven to be very effective, very good for the mainland. So they say our farmers are very anxious to get this new pesticide into their farms to help them manage their crops and keep the bugs off. The process here is a long process, and while we'd like to speed it up, public health and safety, We're the only state in the union that tests the active ingredient and its potential to enter our groundwater. We're very careful. It can take over 10 years to review an application. The pros on this is that we protect the groundwater, okay? We know that if you apply this pesticide on basil, for instance, or papayas or whatever crop that you can think of, we know that this pesticide will not eventually make its way into your groundwater. You'll be safe, okay? But the con is that this process takes 3 times longer than on the US mainland, and globally, there is no process in many cases. So the process may not be regulated globally. So in a sense, the international farmers and producers have an advantage in that they have access to these new technologies a lot quicker than we do here in Hawaii. The mainland farmers, offshore farmers, can be faster in their efficacy in growing crops as well. And those of us, if you know insects, if you give them time, they'll become resistant. So by the time, this is what we hear, by the time the pesticide is eventually released, maybe the bug has already become resistant to it, or maybe it's evolved or morphed into a form that they're naturally resistant to the pesticide. So there are cons to the agriculture community, and so you have pros and cons on that. Just to go over the groundwater review process a little bit, the Department of Agriculture has released 13 new active ingredients since 2018. Hawaii is the only state in the union that requires a groundwater review at that level. At that level, scope, and detail, it takes longer. We do extensive tests with the University of Hawaii, all kinds of soils. I don't want to say the accusation, but the thinking is that, of course, the chemical is going to go into our groundwater because we have volcanic soil. The water just filters through real fast. You know, it's called leachability. So they're saying soil leachability data is used, and it's not fair because the water in the filtering system in the mainland or globally might be a lot more lengthy. But in Hawaii, the water just skims through, right? No, we do not. We know that. And so we use the U.S. Geological Survey initial groundwater review model. And so the soils that we tested on are not more porous than the other soils that are used. We have used the UH Resources, Manoa Water Resources Research Center, and the staff has been transferred off and on, and that has caused delays in our process. But I want you to know that they do have staff now, and they're really, really smart people, and they're patient, and they take their time to make sure that the chemicals that are introduced, if they are safe, that they're not going to be harmful to us or our animals. So we do need to recognize that in agriculture, we need the tools. We need the tools to grow food for you. The most important people in any food system are the farmers and ranchers. And if you restrict the way that they can grow food, they could give up. And if they give up, we don't have, a way to produce more food. They're the producers. There's a campaign that the state has, and our Department of Agriculture surely promotes it. It's called Buy Local, right? Buy more local food. It's healthier. It doesn't have to be transported here, so you help with the climate. But in order to buy local, you have to grow local. So if the farmers cannot grow local, if they don't have the capacity or the resources to grow more food, we won't have the food to buy local, right? And the schools, there's a campaign, Act 175, Act 176, both. They mandate that the state system has to buy 10% of whatever food they buy has to be locally sourced by 2025. That's next year. By 2027, I believe it's 30%. So how can they meet their mandate to buy more local, which they want to do, if we don't grow more local? So I guess the pitch here is that we do protect our water. The Department of Agriculture protects our water. The con side is it takes our farmers out of the competitive, we remove their competitive edge to use the best tools that they have, that the rest of the world, you might say, is using to produce more food safely and on and on. So I guess my pitch is, if there is a bill that comes out this year that was similar to the other bill, you know, you guys are the smart guys. You're with DOT. You manage stormwater. You're in this mix just like us. Send in testimony. You know, add some science to it. Add the science that you have in your back pocket, and help us to make reasonable, measurable, realistic decisions with regard to stormwater, with regard to capturing water, recycling, reusing water. It's important to all of us. I guess the other point that I have is that conferences that I go to, the Hawaii State Constitution says, Section 7, Article 1, I believe it's Article 1, says, the Department of Natural Resources, the DLNR, has the mandate to conserve and protect natural resource lands, right? That's important. Everybody wants that. Section 3 says the Department of Agriculture has to conserve and protect agricultural lands. So every conference that I go to, I sense a kind of a clash between protecting the land and growing food. It seems to be that you're either for natural resources or you're for growing food. I'm saying you don't have to, it's not a zero-sum game. We need to work together, natural resources and food. We can conserve, there are things we can do. Same as you. How do you keep the stormwater from going into the ocean? It rains, you know. How do you manage that? How do you protect the natural resources that the fast-moving water damages, and yet protect the ocean? I mean, it doesn't have to be one or the other. We have to work together. I was in a conference where I was going from breakout session to breakout session, and I happened to walk into one that the speaker was saying, and we all know agriculture is the biggest polluter of water in the world. And it was like, are we? I don't think so. But that's the thinking. So my message here is agriculture, HDOA protects the water. We do what we can to protect water, but we need water to grow food. And it's a ongoing battle. And my next slide is really my closing slide. It's about all the people at the department that we work together to protect the water in the state. We have ASO, Acting Administrative Services Officer, the Agriculture Resource Management Division. I'm pretty sure some of you in here know the staff at the Agriculture Resource Management Division because they handle land and water. We have 6 irrigation systems in the state that they manage. We have several reservoirs that they manage. Every time there's a big rain, the guys are out there checking the system, make sure that it's not damaged. Matthew Loke does statistics. Dr. Maeda does animal industry. Right now, he is very much involved in bovine TB and the spread. We're thinking of doing some vaccines, trying to keep the bovine TB out of the water system, because if it gets in the water system, it's going to be really hard to manage. Greg Takshima is the Plant Industry Division Administrator. Again, these are the pests. He's overseeing the pest division as well. And if you want to manage the pests, we have the tools and the resources. We are responsibly introducing them into the state so that they don't get into the ground system. At the loan division, we have programs that loan money to the farmers. They can build catchment systems. They can, there's a law now started a while back under in the Obama administration called FSMA, the Food Safety Modernization Act. One big sector of the FSMA law is water quality. Farmers have to have their water tested regularly in order to meet food safety standards. We have loans that will help them build systems that have filtration systems, water catchment systems that keep their water safe so that we can grow more food. And then Dr. Leo Obaldo is in our Quality Assurance Division. All these people, they're resources to you as you do your work. If you ever need the Department of Agriculture, you have a question for us, please call on these experts. You can send an email to our general email, and they will help you do your job and keep Hawaii's water system safe. Again, if you have an idea that captures stormwater, recycles and reuses it, and we can use it for our farmers and ranchers to grow food, we're very interested, very interested. It is a global problem, and everyone universally is working on it. Water is a diminishing natural resource, fresh water more so, but certainly irrigation water in R1, R2. So I don't think I used all of my time, so I can defer to the moderator for any questions, or do we have time for questions? Yep, okay. If there are any, I'm happy to take them. Again, our website, no, kidding. Is no questions? Okay, well, thank you for everything you guys do. The fact that you're here means you're part of the solution. Please attend more conferences because you'll hear your name mentioned. Water is a problem not a problem. Problem is a resource that we need to conserve and protect. Okay, thank you for your time.